Good afternoon, everybody. Sammy Thunder here. Welcome back to the channel. It has been a week. I've been on vacation. I've done a lot of driving, and I've been away from cards. It was quite a rush to be at the National and then to come home and, like a snap, just quickly transition over to vacation mode. So it was a little challenging because a lot of driving, and you had to kind of get your head into relaxation mode, which turned out to be not too bad. But I missed, making videos and showing off cards and seeing what everyone was doing with their post-national videos. I really wanted to be there with you guys as well, but it was great to watch your videos, and it was great to see the pickups as well as the gifts that were distributed. So, like everyone else has done, I'm going to be probably one of the last ones to make these videos. But I think these are a joy to make and a joy to watch. So I imagine everyone else will probably enjoy it too. So first video tonight. Today I'll be doing my pickups. I did a video on my final recap, but I didn't really do a good job delivering or telling you more about the pickups and how I came to get them and such. So I figured that I would do that here, this video today. And then the second video will be gifts that I received from content creators and fans. And again, it was just awesome to run into so many people and have good conversations and find out about new channels. And it's just really a blast to run into so many people. But let's start with the pickups. So the first one is for inventory. Probably the only inventory purchase I made. I was so wiped, man. I was really just absolutely wiped. But I did pick up a 68 Seaver. This was at the Niagara Blues, or not Niagara Blues, the Niagara Sports Cards. Niagara Blues is a book that I've been reading. The Niagara Sports Cards table, and they had a Tom Seaver there in the bin or in the display case, and there was an older woman who was opening and closing them, and she was such a trooper. I mean, having to hold the display case while everyone was going through it was a lot, but she was a real sport. So I picked this one up, and I think this will sit nicely in my display case, and this will be a really nice card to potentially get in the hands of another Seaver collector. This one was for my collection. I picked this one up for, I think, 10 bucks, something like that. I think $10 for this. Milton Bradley. I don't know if this is the 69 or 70. Someone can fill me in on this. But nevertheless, I think the one that I had was creased and wrinkled, so I wanted to upgrade it, and I saw this was lying around. There were two of them in there, and I thought this one was the better of the two. So I asked for 10 bucks, and the woman thought, the woman who was helping me, her husband ran like the entire booth that they had, and so I asked her if she would take 10, and she said, oh, he probably won't take 10. And so she goes over to him, to the guy, I guess her husband, and her husband says, okay. And she came back and said, "Oh, quite surprised, $10 it is." So nice little pickup for 10 bucks. This is also for the collection. I made a what they call a Sammy Blunder, or as what Mookie would call a Sammy Blunder. I was who was I walking with at that time? I was walking with somebody. It might have been Jason from Everyday Card Collector, or it could have been Dom. I think it might have been Dom actually from Staven Sports Cards. Uh, Dom is a guy that loves Oddball as much as I do, and so this is the Dell stamp from '71, if I'm not mistaken. And so a couple weeks ago, I picked one up, but it was like, it was what do they call that when you like when you wrap it in plastic, and I forget the name of it, but can't get this one out. I forget the name. I can't think of it now. But this one, I made a blunder, Sammy Blunder, as Mookie would call it. I paid 10 bucks for this one that was wrapped in plastic, and that plastic wrap you can't cut out. So I was like, okay, I gotta make up for that blunder. So there was a guy who had a table who recognized my channel, and he had a bunch of oddball stuff, which I'm always in favor of. And so he had this in there. He had it marked at 8. I asked if he'd take 5, and he took 5, and I thought this was a much better looking stamp than the one that I bought at Garfield a couple weeks ago. So I decided to make an upgrade. In this case, I paid less for the upgrade, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So that was some of the minor pickups. The major pickups, I'll try to break this down as best I can. First one, I already showed this in the other video, but it is my Christy Mathewson Piedmont Back 350 series. So if you saw my video, I was not anticipating buying a portrait of Christy Mathewson from the T206. That was not on the radar, not on the agenda. But sometimes you make those spare-of-the-moment purchases where things just line up nicely. And this one was sitting in William Chappell's table probably for the day and a half before I bought this. And he was telling me he was getting offers left and right for it for just a little below that he wanted to let this go for. And so at the time I was looking at it, and Greg from Midlife Sports Cards was around, so I asked William to take it out for me to take a look at it. So then I asked Greg from Midlife Sports Cards. I said, "What do you think?" Because the price tag on this I think was for $11.50, and so I was asking Greg. I said, "What do you think of this card? What do you think? What do you think would be a good offer for it?" And I already had the number in my head. I just wanted to see what Greg would like. Just wanted to kind of pick his brain a little bit to see what he would offer for this card. And so Greg was thinking, yeah, I think like $1,000, maybe around $1,000 would be good. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what the number that I had in mind. Because like comps were showing on VCP that they were below and above, and some were better, some were worse. And so this one, to me, a 1 is so subjective because 1s can be off center, they can be really creased up, they can have paper loss. I mean, there's so much that can go wrong with a 1, but this one is just probably on the upper echelon in my opinion. Now there are wrinkles to it, but who cares, because when you look from it from far back, you don't really see it. It's only when you really look up close, but that's beside the point. That's something that Greg brought up. He said, this card for a 1 is on the upper echelon. You can't really notice its flaws, and again, that's not the point. I try not to focus on the flaws but it just kind of brings this all together in terms of the purchase. So I thought $1,000 was fair for it. So I went to William and I said, hey, would you take $1,000? And he said, absolutely. That's kind of where I was at too. He was getting offers of $950, $975, and I guess it just wasn't what he wanted. I thought $1,000 was fair, $150 off the sticker, and I got a really nice card out of it. So that was a really, really cool one. The next one, this one is also kind of a spare-of-the-moment purchase, but Mookie Chilson, I was walking with him and his buddy Pete, and came along the 1969 Nabisco Team Flags of Tom Seaver. Now, I was never really a big fan of this set, but I thought the way this looked, the way it was cut, it was really clean. And so Mookie said, hey, obviously, they don't have your Seaver bazooka. And as Mookie was poking fun at me all day, caught me 3 times looking, 3 times, like 3 strikes and I'm out. So caught me looking on that. But he mentioned that there was a Nabisco Seaver, and I thought, okay, I don't think they go for a whole lot of money. So I think I can definitely afford to get one if it looks right and it fits what I'm looking for. So he brought me over to the booth that had all the Bazooka 68s, but just not the Seaver. And I had a good conversation with the dealer that was set up there, and I asked him if I could take a look at this one. So it was myself, Mookie, Pete. I want to say Greg was there, but I'm not 100%. It's hard for me to keep track of all the movements, but nevertheless, I think Coach was there too, Greg's dad. But so we were looking at it, and so again, I'm looking at comps, just trying to see what it's going for. This had a sticker price of $90, and they ranged anywhere between like 60 and 100. So I asked if they would take 75, and so they ultimately agreed. We had a little bit of a confusion because I think the dealer thought this was marked at 100, so he originally said, "I'll take $20 off." And so it was originally marked at 90, and so it would have been 70. I'm not going to be a stickler about it. I said, it's marked at 90, and he realized, like, oh, okay, yeah, 75. So I took it for 75 bucks. I thought that was a fair price, and it looks great. So good pickup. Thank you, Mookie, again, for pointing this out. I'm happy with it. It's a great card. It's a great little card, great little piece, because he's just in his wind-up, in his motion. And he's going to be scraping that knee when he follows through. So, nice piece. Next one is a fun one. This one I did have on the agenda, the Addy Joss portrait. Piedmont back, Series 150. Now this one came in a trade. I have to give a lot of credit to Ash from Legacy Cards. Ash was busy the entire day and night that he was there, but I did get a chance to go over to his table and conduct one of the first deals, first trades that I've done at a national. And so I thought this looked really nice. I wanted the Adi Joss portrait. I mean, to me, it's just a really cool looking portrait of his. And so he had this marked, I think at like 590 or so. It was pretty up there. So I thought, all right, I don't know if I want to dish out the entire cash load of like $500 plus. So I thought, all right, I have an Al Kaline rookie from 54. That's in a 2.5, I believe, or a 2. I can't remember. The Kaline I received from, or I bought from Don Field of Dreams, and bought from him that card, and so I used it as a trade, and so I traded towards the Adi Joss. Again, Ash hooked me up. I asked Ash if he would come down to 500 for the value of the Joss, which he happily agreed, and said, he said he would hook me up, and he definitely did. The K-line I valued at 400, so I gave him 110. We agreed on $510 value on the Joss, so I gave him the K-line plus $110 cash kicker for the Addy, and so really nice. I mean, happy to only have to throw $110 cash for the Addy Joss. I thought that was a good deal for a Hall of Fame portrait. All right, so the last one is an interesting story to this one, because I've had opportunities to buy this prior to going to the National, but a lot of different options of cards came up in the way, such as the Willie Mays Coca-Cola and other assorted cards that were part of that big deal that I made prior to the National. But I did acquire enough funds to take with me to the National to buy what is arguably my biggest card. The story goes is that I was on the fence. This is the first day purchase. It took me a couple hours to kind of come around to this. And so this card, I'll just show you what it is. It's a Pinkerton 1913. Sorry, the glare. Trying to get it in focus for you guys. But it's a 1913-1915 Pinkerton Christy Mathewson scorecard back. And here's the scorecard back to it. This is the highest grade known. There are only 3 scorecards, I believe, from PSA, and this is the highest grade shared with one other, 3. SGC, I think, also has 1 and a 3, and then there's about 5 or 6 with SGC, so a total of 9 of these exist that are known to be graded. So the story goes, first and foremost, 1913-1915 Pinkerton was a set. It's unknown how many cards are in the set, but they definitely feature big names. I think Walter Johnson, Ty Cobb, and of course Christy Mathewson rounded out for the big names. There are some other big names as well, but the scorecard backs are considered the most desirable. There are 3 different backs. There is a standard postcard back, there is a blank back, and then you have the scorecard back. The scorecard back to me is the most fascinating. I really just love the capability of being able to use the card to fill in. I don't know where these were distributed, how they were distributed. There's not much information on this set, but it's a great looking postcard, and postcards are just becoming more and more popular when it comes to pre-war, possibly because the value of these are a little bit lower than some of the standard cards, like the tobacco cards or the caramels or such. So now, the way this kind of formulated was there's a guy named Harry Kolb who sets up at Garfield. I show his table all the time. He had this displayed probably multiple times in many of my videos, and I had opportunities to buy this from him. But again, other purchases came up, like the Willie Mays Coca-Cola, which I wanted a little bit more. So, but this was an option. He told me it'd be at the National, and there was a little bit of a misunderstanding on price, but it all worked out just fine. I went to the guy. So Harry wasn't at the National, but he brought this over to a dealer who would be at the National to sell on his behalf as a consignment. The guy who had this, I met with him, spoke with him, he spoke with Harry. There was an initial offer for the amount for an amount for this card. Couldn't get it for that amount. I think there was a misunderstanding. I just misheard Harry at the last Garfield show, thinking that the same price would be possible at the National, but it turned out that the dealer who had the card for Harry raised it up a little bit, which is fine. I paid up a little bit more. Harry originally had this marked at 3,900 when he had this at Garfield. I was fortunate to catch the dealer who was selling on his behalf. He was going to raise the price on this card, but based on the conversations that were had, ultimately we agreed to. The initial offer was for 3,000 to get this, but they dropped it down to 3,200, and so I thought, okay, I needed to get some advice. So I spoke with Don, a show of me, excuse me. And so I spoke with Don, and Don gave me sound advice. He said, listen, this is a really tough card. You're probably not going to come across another one. And if you do, it's not going to be the next day or the day after that. And he looked at comps for what the Ty Cobb was going for. It was selling for like $15,000. I mean, obviously Ty Cobb is an astronomical name. Position players tend to go for a lot more than pitchers, but this is arguably a card. The dealer kind of claimed that this card would sell for much more, which I guess I could agree. I mean, I kind of had reservations about it because I thought that based on the auction that it sold for on eBay, it sold for like 1,800. So I definitely paid up for this. But who knows? There's a lot of factors that can go into it, and I think the dealer's right that ultimately down the road this card will be worth a lot more. But we're thinking of just right now, present day, and so again, Don gave me good advice. I thought, what he was telling me made a lot of sense, and so I decided on the very first day to take the plunge, buy the card, have it in the collection. It looks great. Just a very straightforward, simple photograph showing his windup, and I've been reading a book on him recently. It's a biography written about him, and learning about his history. It just makes me appreciate a lot of the cards that I have from my collection of him. So, I don't regret paying up for it. I think it was again scarce card, scorecard back. And also, Dan's Vintage Baseball PC was there to witness the purchase happen, and I think he was in favor of it. So it's cool to kind of get the support and the help of others to kind of chime in and provide some assistance when you definitely need it. But those are the major pickups, and we'll definitely do another video of some of the gifts I received from some of the content creators and fans that watch the channel. So it's really, again, appreciated between everybody. That just want to say thank you for all the assistance and the help that I received when I was there, and I hope I could have been of help for some others as well. But definitely look out for the part 2 of this video, which is the gifts. And so later this week we'll definitely do a VR for Darren for Return to Collecting, as he's doing his 1,000 subscriber giveaway, so that's on the horizon. And we're going to get back into the mix of card shows Kingston this Saturday. So more to come later this week to share with you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys later. Have a great night and take care.